Greetings and welcome to my podcast, Why So Political? I'm your host, Neha Yadavalli, a high schooler from the United States. Regardless of your views, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Why So Political. Quite recently, I was having a conversation with my father on the car ride home from the grocery store. In my immediate family, diverting to politics, especially when I am involved in the conversation, is quite common. My father and I were casually talking about the events that unfolded over the past few years. We talked about Biden's presidency, Trump's presidency, and the current political climate. Soon we found ourselves talking about the far left and alt-right. We conversed about the January 6th insurrection when I was compelled to ask my father, if you were to leave my little brother in the hands of someone on the far left or the alt-right, who would you choose? Keep in mind, I was talking about the extremists of both sides. An odd question, I know, but I was genuinely curious. My father, being the fair and level-headed man he is, stated that he would simply not send my brother to either person. Now, at the time of the conversation, I said I would have chosen the person on the extreme left. My father said something during that talk, however, that stuck with me. He claimed that the alt-right is equally as detrimental as extremists on the left. Something about this statement unlocked a deep sense of curiosity within me. I wasn't entirely sure about the correctness, if you will, of my father's statement. However, I definitely weighed both sides. I mean, if you take a closer look into the beliefs and the ideologies that the extreme right and the extreme left hold, are they really as bad as the other? That's the topic of today's debate. Is the extreme left really as bad as the extreme right, and vice versa? Now, any form of extremism has its obvious drawbacks. This is because extremism is not too different from fanaticism. A fanatic is defined as a person exhibiting excessive enthusiasm and intense, uncritical devotion towards some controversial matter. The January 6th insurrectionists could be viewed as right-wing fanatics, while communists could be viewed as left-wing fanatics. In order to find out if these two extremes are really just as bad as the other, it's important to understand some of the more moderate beliefs both wings hold. Let's compare some left-wing and right-wing ideologies. These ideologies are not extremist, but they are important to understand in order to grasp the different level extremists on both sides interpret these ideologies. According to Diffin, some core beliefs of the left include minority rights, economic equality, gun control, environmental protection, expanded educational opportunity, and social nets for those who need them. Some core beliefs of the right include limited government at national or federal level. Furthermore, they believe that local governments should have the most control over decisions affecting the local population. Individual freedom and personal property rights are also held to the highest value. When practiced in moderation, both these ideologies have their appeal and resonate with many level-headed people. Extremists, however, take these ideologies to a whole new level. First, I want to delve into extremism practiced in the left wing. Far left extremism, or Marxist-Leninist terrorism, is terrorism committed with the aim of overthrowing current capitalist systems and replacing them with or socialist societies. According to the third volume of the Marxism-Leninism states that the freedom of the individual worker is directly dependent on the liquidation of capitalist exploitation and private ownership of the means of production. Answering the critics' reproach that communists want to destroy all property as the basis of personal freedom, Marx and Engels showed that these accusations are in fact used to hide attempts to present a certain freedom, the freedom to exploit hired labor, freedom to develop the minority by suppressing the majority, as the individual's freedom in general. In their first pragmatic document, the communists declare it is necessary to destroy the oppression of man by man. In place of the old society with classes and class antagonisms, will be a society which is an association of workers where the free development of each is a condition for the free development of all. Extremist right-wing ideologies are on the completely opposite side of the spectrum. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the alternative right, commonly known as the alt-right, is a set of far-right ideologies, groups, and individuals whose core belief is that white identity is under attack by multicultural forces using political correctness and social justice to undermine white people and their civilization. When I think of the alt-right, a group that comes into my mind is QAnon. According to ADL, in the United States, the extreme right consists primarily of two large, slightly overlapping spheres. In one sphere is the white supremacist movement, including its various sub-movements such as the neo-Nazis, racist skinheads, and the alt-right, among others. In the other sphere are anti-government extremist movements such as the militia movement and sovereign citizens. I would like to acknowledge the clear fact that both groups are equally as capable of causing mass destruction and overall lead to the detriment of society. Extremists on both sides of the spectrum have caused so much pain and misery in the lives of many, and this just goes to prove that any ideology can be harmful when practiced in the most extreme form. So I would say that both extreme left ideologies and extreme right ideologies are equally as capable of causing destruction as the other. And I would go on to say that it is fair to assume this relation to most, if not all, extreme ideologies. But currently, in the United States, there seems to be one group that is proving more destructive than the other, and the ideologies that this group holds is only fueling extremists in both the left and the right wings. The culprit is the alt-right. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, white supremacists, extremist militia members, and other violent far-right extremists were responsible for 66% of domestic terrorist attacks and plots in the year of 2020, roughly consistent with their share in other recent years, while anarchists, anti-fascists, violent environmentalists, and other violent far-left extremists conducted 23% of terrorist attack plots in 2020. Now, I want to make clear that in no way am I trying to push any blame or minimize any of the horrendous events that have unfolded. Suffering caused by both left-wing and right-wing extremists is horrible, and I give my condolences and thoughts to anyone who has been affected by this. I only brought up this statistic to illustrate a very valid point that I feel needs to be made. This is pertaining to the United States, though I'm sure similar or even not so similar trends can be followed through other countries. In the United States, however, considering the fact that far-right extremists were responsible for around 2/3 of domestic terrorist attacks, it would be logical to conclude that, in a recent light, the far right has caused more suffering to the general public than the far left. And I would be even more specific to say that the actions of the far right has caused even more suffering to the general public than the actions of the far left. So, to reiterate my whole view on this debate, both extreme left ideologies and extreme right ideologies are equally as capable of causing destruction as the other. However, in terms of the United States in current years, the far right has caused more suffering to the general public than the far left. That concludes this episode of Why So Political. As we wrap up our first season, I would like to end by saying thank you to my audience. Without your support, I would not be lucky enough to complete this season feeling content. I am forever grateful to my parents as well, as they have provided me with resources as well as constructive feedback that only helps to improve progressing episodes. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to my take. I truly appreciate your time. If you like what you heard, I would highly encourage you to come back next season, where we will cover women who have influenced the world in countless ways. Have a good one.